And between all these, there is a coherent line. So the same type of thinking is applied to teaching for different levels, from early childhood care and upwards. So those examples there on the right-hand side, those are the results, the books that the work ended up in. And all this was done at the same time, parallel. But now during this presentation, I speak mostly about the basic education reform. And with basic education, we mean then children between 7 and 16 years old. But this slide, I think, is important just to show quickly that we have no dead ends in the education system. So school starts relatively late when you're 7 years old. Before that, there's a pre-primary education. It's still not obligatory. It perhaps should be, according to my opinion, but it's not. And then early childhood education and care before that. But whichever line you go, you can always, if you go from basic education to vocational upper secondary school, or let's say vocational school, you can still afterwards go to the university line, whereas in many countries you're divided when you're 12 years old or 10, that you go to a certain tube. But this doesn't happen, so there are no dead ends, and this was also behind the thinking that the core curriculums, we try to do them hand in hand with each other so that they would be coherent. Well, the main questions and challenges then in the curriculum reform process, these were the main, very important questions when the work started. How could we still improve the best features of the system that we had? And what kind of future we want to build? And we thought that we can determine and decide a little bit, direct that as well with this kind of norm. And how do we perceive learning? What do we think is learning, actually? And what is a good learning process like? It could be a lot of things. And also, all the time, what does research say? So it was hand in hand with research and experience. And how does the surrounding world change? And then maybe the most important question, what is worth learning in that world? What really is worth learning today already compared to a couple of years ago? So we asked ourselves that how should we go about concretely? And we ended up thinking accordingly. We used a top-down approach plus a strong bottom-up approach in combination. We thought that would be the best solution. So the state, the government, could provide framework, direction, resources, plus very importantly, build networks and bring people together. That's, government has the power or possibilities to do that. But then the local level, they have an understanding and experience from the reality, capacity to create, to give feedback, to learn and find practical solutions. So both of these were used hand in hand, parallel. And what gave the success in the reform process according to us then? Well, it was first of all transparency. So immediately when any goals were defined, they were published for everybody on internet, so everybody could read them. All plans were published immediately, and the timetables, so everybody who are interested could know what's going on. The drafts were published constantly of the documents and results of feedback. Feedback was asked regularly from many groups, I will tell a little bit later from who, but also the feedback was published on internet for the people to see that their opinions were taken, at least they were listened to and noted. Collaboration. So the aim was to have extensive participation and involvement, really to try to do it together. And listening and respecting people's ideas, appreciating also contradictory views. But, like I said, building our knowledge base, all the time bringing back what does research say, what do we know as facts. And then strong future orientation. Then key aspects of curriculum development. So I still want to stress that the core curriculum in Finland gives common direction to the processes and the development of teaching and learning. It is holistic and compact. It covers all areas. And inclusiveness, we mean with that it covers education for all students, for everybody. And it's not really so much about goals for subject content. It's more about goals for learning, how to learn, instead of what exactly to learn in biology or geography, for example. And prerequisites for a successful learning process. Because that's what we thought that after a long process were needed for the future as a skill. And it looked much for a balance between academic achievement and student welfare. So it really was considered it's important for children and students to feel well and to be happy, but based on future orientation and competence-based thinking. This is with whom all education in Finland is developed in partnership with, not only when it comes to reforming core curricula, but in everything. So it's national authorities, I would represent that, local authorities, municipalities, the providers of education, teachers union, very strong in Finland, social partners, parents, very important, pupils and students, research institutions, and other relevant stakeholders. So it looks like there was a lot of time for the reform. We started the actual work at the National Agency for Education in 2012, and it was started to be implemented in schools in August 2016. But in fact, there was not that much time since a lot of activities took place. So everything was based on the Education Acts and decrees, which are provided by the Ministry of Education. They are lowest down in the picture. Then the government's decree on the division of lesson hours was finalized in June 2012. So the ministry is responsible of the decree on the division of lesson hours. And then a couple months later, the National Agency for Education could start working in practice by activities that I will explain soon. So the actual developing work took place between 2012 and 2014, so 2 years. Between 2014 and 2016, so 2 years, the local authorities had time to work on their local curricula based on the national one. This is a very important aspect that on governmental level, we have a national core curricula, but every education provider, so every city in practice, work out their local curricula based on the national one. So the teaching started in August 2016, as I said. Well, how was everything organized then? Well, curriculum roadmap was used as a new tool, which meant that my agency organized specific tours to different areas in Finland, seminars, where they collected people, teachers, mainly education people, but anybody who were interested, to talk, to discuss, and to present this, and to pose these questions, which I explained here earlier. Then there were multidisciplinary working groups. There were around 30 of them, and 8 people in every group. Normally, the chairperson in this working group was somebody from my agency. And these groups' works was supported by online consultation. And who sat in these multidisciplinary working groups? There were principals, teachers, representatives for teacher training schools, researchers, and always at least one professor. Geographical balance. That it was important that representatives to these working groups did not all come from the capital. They were they had to come from different areas in the country. Also, they could not only be women or not only men, the gender balance between them, and many factors like this. Then these working groups had as their help something called advisory group, which had 60 main stakeholders. There was a person from Ministry of Education, one from Ministry of Social and Health Affairs, Teachers Union, somebody representing the Sami people, which is the indigenous people in Finland living up north, Roma people, we have our national Roma, they were represented, and somebody from the school book publishers, those who make school books, and then Finnish Confederation of Salaried Employees, and people like this. So this was the advisory group. So the working group worked on a draft. They presented it to the advisory group who had some opinions, and they went back. And this took a long time and was done a lot of times. Then, in addition, there were consultations during this process. All education providers, so the municipalities in practice, were asked to provide feedback. They were sent questionnaires and please comment, and they did. Almost all of them were active and did. Then there were open consultations organized by my agency on internet for anybody, for just citizens. And there were lots of comments coming in. And then key stakeholders were invited to provide their official opinions before final decisions. So all relevant organizations were sent an official request to comment in the last part, in the end, towards the end of the process. And then this board of trustees, or the board of the Finnish National Agency for Education, they were heard before the final decision was made by the Director General of the National Agency for Education. So the board did not have a decision-making power, only they approved. And the Director General in the board in my agency is a civil servant and is not politically appointed. So the key was transparency and participatory leadership, which enhanced participation. And they tried really to use the expertise of everybody involved, also students appreciating contradictory views of them as well. And then cross-checking and using multiple sources of information and feedback, and knowledge sharing. Well, why? Of course, because so that it would make sense for everybody. Why are we doing this? So we would have as much consensus as possible. And so as many people, and teachers especially, would see that this will be beneficial for my work. And we tried to improve the possibilities for the sustainability of the reform. So maybe this is already clear, but so we have the Ministry of Education and Culture, which is responsible of education policy, preparation of legislation and state funding. And then my agency that I work for, it's a development agency, and that's the organization that is responsible of the core curricula, but in this in cooperation with a lot of other organizations and systems. And we also support implementing core curricula. But then the local decisions, they have a lot of power as well. They set the priorities and local curriculums. They have the power of allocation of subsidies. They decide by themselves how many schools they have, class sizes. It's not in the law, they decide by themselves. And about recruitment and quality assurance. And this picture is only here. I want to show that the board, which is above the Director General, that's the body that approves the final decision. Not legally, they don't have decision power, but they support the Director General. And we believe that the reason why there are very little fluctuations, regardless of what kind of government we have in education policy, is because the Director General, is not politically appointed. He's a civil servant. Oops. So this is just a list of who sits in this board. So there are several student organizations and unions. That all different political parties are represented. Trade unions, both employees, representatives for employees and employers, plus a very strong teachers' union. So the teachers' role in the national reform process, that cannot be emphasized enough. There were discussions with teachers before and during the reform, at teachers' in-service training days and seminars, a lot. There were always teachers represented in the curriculum groups. And the teachers' union was represented in the advisory group. And conferences with universities, teacher education faculties. So it was very important to also work with teacher education parallel. And all teachers in Finland are trained on university level, so they all have a master's degree. They work very independently and take pride in their work. So in Finland it's still a quite popular profession to be a teacher. And the system is based on trust as well. That, trust. So we can see that we have 3 levels in the Finnish curriculum system. So there is the legislation and norms with the lowest down. So also the national core curricula, it is a very strong document. So all education providers really are supposed to follow it. And then the municipalities, the next level, they are responsible of their local curricula that they do, but they adjust to their local needs, the national one. And then the teaching and learning, the practical level. So main goals in this curriculum reform, well, to enhance joy and meaningfulness in all learning, to create a positive, caring atmosphere which would encourage to mutual interaction, to enhance youngsters to take initiative and carry responsibility, to practice competence for democracy in a concrete way, and also we try to give examples, not in the national core curriculum, but in the support material on how concretely to do in schools to reach these goals, and to practice solving conflicts in a peaceful way, and to create generic competences and high learning achievement. But I stress again, learning as a process is important. And then to support the identity and well-being, and dialogue and collaboration in the school, not only in the school but between schools and in the community, and enhance sustainable way of living and well-being. So one could say that there were 4 targets for the reform. The pedagogic reform, you could say from what to learn, we went to how to learn. The aim was a holistic approach. So there should be a collaboration between subjects, generic competences including democratic citizenship and applying human rights. And then change of school culture, renewal of working approaches and assessment. So just a small example, now also students and pupils are participating in their assessment of their own achievements and how they perform. And then that the curriculum is a digital tool with a lot of new possibilities for supportive material. So these 3 aspects could be perhaps said that are special in the Finnish core curriculum, amongst others: equity and equality, Focus on languages. We believe that, and the core curricula is built in the way that all teachers are language teachers, not only English or French, but all teachers teach the language of their own subject. This is kind of new. And promoting the UN Agenda to 2030. Well, the products of the reform, well, was this. You saw the books already earlier. And then my last picture, which I like, concludes it perhaps that becoming something or already being something, that do we necessarily need to think that we have to become something, or are we already something? That the child and the pupil already is a learning person, living life. And I think it's fascinating that we are so far away physically, for example, Korea and Finland. And already now I have heard so many similar thoughts that we have. But there is just a little bit difference in culture and in the administrative systems. But that was it. Thank you very much. I used my time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. 네, 고맙습니다. 핀란드에 대해서 요즘에 우리나라에서 굉장히 관심이 뜨겁죠. 그래서 다양한 책도 많이 나오고 있는데 직접 말씀을 들으니까 더 이해가 잘 되는 것 같아요. 특히 교육과정 개혁에 대해서 우리나라도 2015가 지금 막 적용되는 이 시점에서 많은 시사점이 있는 것 같습니다. 아까 제가 하나 소개를 빠뜨렸는데 아까 그 전화번호를 보여드렸는데요. 오늘 발표, 특히 해외에서 오신 분들의 내용 중에서 아주 창의적이고 멋있는 질문을 하신 두 분께 선물을 드리는 게 준비되어 있습니다. 그래서 이따가 진행하면서 채택되신 질문의 선물을 제가 드리도록, 주최 측에서 준비한 건 아니고 제가 개인적으로 한번 준비해봤습니다. 그래서 제가 두 개 준비해서 드리도록 하겠습니다. 두 번째 발표는 사실 우리나라에서 굉장히 이 외국 사례 중에서 많이 나오는 나라가 핀란드, 싱가포르입니다. 그래서 싱가포르 사례도 굉장히 우리가 많이 접하고 있는데 그 중에서도 우리나라에서 지금 가장 또 이슈가 되고 있는 교사 교육입니다. 우리나라 지금 양성교육 과정 개편이 또 한국에서는 굉장히 중요한 이슈 중에 하나인데 싱가포르에서 이루어지고 있는 21세기 교사 교육의 방향에 대한 사례를 우리 국가교육원에 교수로 계시는 수아비랭 선생님을 모시고 발표를 듣는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 수아비랭 선생님께 수아비랭 선생님 뜨거운 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
안녕하세요. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bilay from the National Institute of Education, the only teacher college in Singapore. If you want to be a teacher, you have to come to NIE. I'm the Associate Dean for Professional Practice in the Office of Teacher Ed, and also a Senior Lecturer at the Psychological Studies Department. Very happy to be here. I'll just start with an overview of the education system in Singapore and then briefly touch on teacher education in Singapore. Tomorrow I have another session where I will go deeper into teacher education in Singapore. Singapore is very small. It's about 700 square kilometers, but we have about 5.6 million people, very populated. We have 4 races, very diverse country. We have Chinese, majority of them, Malays, Indians, and Eurasians. And because it is a very diverse, it's made up of a lot of different ethnic groups, races, Therefore, we need a common language. So English is our first language. Our mother tongue is our second language. So English is the medium of instruction in Singapore. And students take English as the first language from preschool all the way to postgraduate programs. Okay, now in Singapore, we go through different education stages. When we started to gain independence, we were at the survival stage. So education then was survival driven. At that point in time, we need to set up basic education. We need to recruit huge numbers of teachers. Because I mentioned previously that English is the first language and mother tongue is the second language. So therefore, we are going into bi-language, dual language focus in Singapore. Then we go into the efficiency-driven phase, where we look into the quality of education. We reduce dropout rates. We also look into more diverse pathways like vocational and technical education. Then we look into the ability-driven phase, where in the late 90s, we actually look into developing the potential of every child. It's very important to have diverse pathways for them. At that point in time, we also think that it's important for the teacher to teach less, but the students to learn more. So, which means that teachers are not always giving information, students need to construct the knowledge themselves. It is also where we start an initiative called Thinking School, Learning Nation. So that is where the curriculum is also being reduced. This is also where we give the school more autonomy to come up with their own curricula and also their own activities and programs for their students. And we harness technology to help us in our teaching and learning. Finally, in 2012, we then go into the student-centric, values-driven phase, when we look into the holistic development of the learner. It is about developing 21st century competencies for the students to be future ready. It's about social emotional competency that we are developing in our students too. And also, it is also about a lot more diverse pathways to help our students grow. I would like to resonate with what Maria has shared about the Finnish education system. In Singapore, we also have the same approach. We call it top-down support, bottom-up initiative. We give the general direction, the resources, but we also want the school to have the autonomy to design their curriculum and also their activities for the students. So we coined it the bottom-up initiative, but the top-down support. So this is just an overview of the education system in Singapore, the different phases that we went through. Okay, now, I don't think you can see it very well, but this is just to show visually the different pathways that our students go through. There's not one pathway, because we want to develop students to their maximum potential according to what they are good at and their strength. So we can see that we have 6 years of primary education, 4 to 5 years of secondary education, and then we then have our post-secondary education. So there's no restricting of one way to get tertiary education. Okay, so and this is something that I think is one of our enablers for a good education system in Singapore. But we do have certain issues that we are trying to overcome too. We do score well, our students do score well for international benchmarking, but we are moving away from grades, moving away from paper achievement. Because we talk about holistic development of a child, the critical thinking skills, the adaptive skills, the values, the social emotional competency, etc. So we need to move away from a single score examination. We also want to ease and reduce the competition and the stress among parents and students. It is also, we do not want to categorize students to be more academically inclined or less. We will give them opportunity if they are strong in one subject to do even a subject that is of a higher level, even though they can be in a less academically inclined stream. We provide that opportunity. We need to harness technology because technology advancement is so rapid now, and it will change the teaching and learning environment in the classroom. So how do we harness those to help our students to be more engaged? And of course, more innovative and creative thinking to develop this among our students. So when I mentioned about holistic development, I mentioned about the multiple pathways for a student to be successful, but there's also one part that I want to emphasize, and that is for them to be lifelong learners, to have the intrinsic value, to see the joy of learning. That is very important, and that's what we are focusing in the education system in Singapore now. So, this is relatively new. From 2019 onwards, our primary 1 and primary 2, we don't have any more exams. It's bite-sized assessment. It's very formative. It's not really always summative, but more of formative assessment. From 2020 to 2021, mid-year examination will be removed from primary 3, primary 5, Sec 1, and Sec 3. Now, currently in school, for all the levels, we have both, except for primary 1 and 2, we have mid-year and final year. We are removing the mid-year for all these levels. And of course, for the PSLE, we have wider score bands so that we reflect students of their own performance. So it's not so competitive. You do not go and fight for 1 point or 2 points, So this is something that we are moving towards. Now, we talk about holistic development, and this is what we really look into, and to develop students in terms of the 21st century competency. If you look into the inner circle, it's about values. Values is important, especially in this globalized world. Then we talk about their social emotional competency, the ability to know your own strength and your own weakness. How do you manage yourself? How do you relate to others? How do you make responsible decisions? All these are very important social emotional competencies that we want to foster in our students in our school. In the 21st century, it's very important for them to have civics literacy, global awareness, and also cross-cultural skills. At the same time, to be future ready, you have to be critical and inventive, to be a critical and inventive person, to have creative and inventive thinking is important too. Communication, collaboration, information literacy, very important and necessary too. And with all these things, what are we developing? What outcomes are we looking at? We are looking at a confident learner, an active contributor, a self-directed learner that is able to be intrinsically motivated to continuously to learn, as well as a concerned citizen. So they are rooted in Singapore, but yet they have a global perspective. So this is what we aim to achieve through our curriculum within a school in Singapore. And when we focus on holistic development, we also introduce initiatives like Applied Learning Program and also Learning for Life. Let me elaborate a bit. What is Applied Learning Program? I don't know whether you face the same issue and problem like in Singapore. Students tend to study for exams. They learn the concept, they just do well for exams. But sometimes they cannot apply the concept to real-world situation. So in simple, we are going to move into this for them to have authentic learning. And that's the reason why school is going to applied learning, where students learn how to apply the concept learned in the classroom, outside the classroom, into the real world. And let me give you this example. This is an example of a top-down support and bottom-up initiative. When the ministry talk about applied learning program, they give the direction and the fund. But it's up to the school to decide which applied learning program they want for their students. Some schools enter into robotics, some schools enter into environmental issues programs. So different schools, depending on the outcomes they want for the learner, will embark on different programs, and the ministry will support them. Okay, and for the applied learning program, let's not test it. However, if let's say the school feels that they want to offer it as an O-level subject, they can offer it if they want to. We also have learning for life program. So what is learning for life program? I show you the competencies framework just now. Inner circle is value. The learning for life is about developing our students the effective aspect of learners, to develop the effective aspect of our students. Okay. So what do I mean? Social, emotional competency, ability to contribute to the community. So all these things we hope that we can develop through all these programs. And all the schools will embark on these programs under, and this broad initiative is given by the ministry. So, and in all these things, the role of the educator is crucial. The role of the teacher is crucial because they play a very important role to inspire, to design the learning environment for it, which I will elaborate a bit later on. Okay, so I've done this. Okay. Now, I mentioned about creative and inventive thinking. So, in Singapore, we look into the 3 I's. It's very important for our students to be imaginative, to have divergent thinking. It's important for them to be inquisitive, to always ask questions. It's not about getting the answer, but also asking the question. It's not about just why, but why not. It's also about interconnection. You know, it's not about learning in isolation, but it's learning between, you know, what are the connections that you can make between the subjects that you learn. For example, in solving a problem, you know, what did I learn from physics? What did I learn from maths? What did I learn from geography? How do I see the interconnectedness among all of this in order to solve a problem that involves all these 3 disciplines? And this is what we hope to see in our students, and this is what is important when they go out to work in the real life, in the real world scenario. Okay. I talked about this already. We don't not only have mainstream school, but because we believe in maximizing the potential of every child, we also have sports school, we also have art school, and we have also gifted programs. So there are technical schools too, polytechnics, so we have different pathways from different learner, different profiles of learner. Okay, I've talked about that already. Now, we all know, in any new initiative, it is not just about engaging policymakers know that it's not only about engaging the school, the teachers, but parents is equally important. So in Singapore, when we make known to the public on all this initiative, the school will take the responsibility to communicate all these changes to the parents. And they have a lot of parents interaction, parent support group, so that parents know what is good and what is coming for their child's education. So the move away from just paper achievement, but the focus on holistic development, that's really important. Okay. Finally, for the overall view of the education system in Singapore, I would just like to state this. Your assessment practice can change, but with the change in assessment practice, your teaching and learning in the classroom must also change. And that is the reason why in Singapore, we make it very explicit what are the important components in the teaching and learning environment. And we call this the Singapore Teaching Practice Model. As you can see here, the pedagogical practice, the type of teaching approaches you use in the classroom is at the center, as the heart. But when you design your practice for your students, the type of pedagogical approach that you want to engage for your students, it's important that you know your content knowledge, you have subject mastery. It's important that you know your learner and their learning process. It's important that you know what are the essential of good teaching, the importance of establishing student-teacher relationship, etc. So what we are saying is that it's not enough to know the how of doing things or the what, but you need to know the why, the theory behind it. So that as teachers, you want to improve our practice, you understand what are changes that needs to be done. So this is what is very important in the Singapore schools now. The teachers are also researchers. They form learning groups within the school, during the school curriculum, to really look into their practice. They look in their practice not only in the how, but understanding the why so that they can make the changes and the refinement. But most importantly, you can see that right at the bottom is a Singapore curriculum philosophy. All these are anchored on the Singapore curriculum philosophy. And what is that? That is the belief that every child can learn. The belief in a holistic education for every child. And all these practices hinges on that belief. This then further elaborate so that within the Singapore teaching practice, we actually look into the 4 very important teaching processes. We look into how to establish a positive classroom culture. We look into how do you prepare a lesson as a teacher. We look into how do you deliver the lesson and how do you give assessment and feedback for the students to enhance their learning. So all these are very important. Okay, so up to this point in time, I just given you a very brief overview of the education system in Singapore, and what is it that we are focusing in this current teaching and learning context. I'll now briefly go into teacher education in Singapore. I must first say that one of the enabler or one of the success factor in Singapore is that we have very close working relationship between our college, which is teacher college, with the ministry, as well as the school. Our college is a tertiary institution. We provide teacher education, but we work very closely with MOE as well as the school. And we believe that the quality of the education system cannot exceed the quality of the teacher. Teacher quality is very important. So when it comes to the recruitment of the teacher, only the best get recruited to be teacher. And really, at the end of the day, it's not just about teachers having good score or high score. It is also about their passion for teaching and also their competency for teaching that we're talking about. So what do I mean? A lot of Singapore is the only system where the teachers are really employed by the ministry before they come to teacher college. So when they are employed, majority of them when they are employed by the ministry, they will go to school straight away before they enter teacher college. So when they go to school, they will then know what is it like to teach in a classroom. So they will start teaching in the classroom as an untrained teacher first. Then the school will observe, even though they may not have the competency to be a full-fledged teacher, but they have the attitude, they have the quality, and they have the professionalism to be a teacher. So when the school sees that, they will recommend them to go and say, okay, you can go and do your teacher training. However, if any one of them doesn't have the attitude and the passion to be the teacher, the school can say, no, you do not go to NIE for your teacher education. All right, so that is a gateway. Okay, and the majority of teachers go through that path. So it's not about just a good score. It's about the attitude and the professionalism too. For students that goes to our BSc program with the diploma in education, that means the bachelor degree in education, they are all scholars. So for these students, in order to come for our scholars program, Out of 2,000 applicants, we only take 50 to 75. And for these students, it's not about only good score. They have to be interviewed. They have to write a personal statement of why they want to be a teacher, and they have to teach in front of a panel of interviewers. So, as you can see, it's a very rigorous recruitment process that we look into in Singapore to recruit our teachers, because we believe that we need the best for our education system. And of course, the remuneration package for our teachers is also good, and the status of being a teacher is relatively high in Singapore too. Alright, so I just want to go to 2 more slides before I end today's presentation. I want to emphasize that in today's context, we need to change what teacher is supposed to be like. Teachers are now creator of knowledge. They are no longer disseminator of knowledge. They are facilitator of learning. They are not just transmitter. They are architect of learning environment. How you design your teaching and learning environment in the classroom is very important. That is what it means to be a teacher. It's not just delivery. You need to plan and you need to design your learning environment. Shaper of character and leaders of education change. And in order to do that right, we actually go through the 5 Ps. In NIE, we talk about teacher professionalism. We go through rigorous programs for our students. We have a heavy emphasis on professional practice. We do it through innovative pedagogy, because for the teachers to do it in class, we have to model it for our student teacher. And we want our teachers to be teachers with multiple perspectives. Alright, so these are the things tomorrow I will elaborate more on. What are the programs in NIE that align to the 5 Ps and ultimately bring us to the type of graduates that we want to develop. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you. 네, 고맙습니다. 전반적인 그 교육의 핵심 방향부터 해서 마지막에 교사교육까지 이어지는 좋은 발표였던 것 같습니다. 이제 3번째 발표로 독일의 학교 혁신 사례를 발표를 해주시겠는데, 성함이 제가 발음이 고등학교 때 독일어를 배웠었는데 그래도 읽기가 어려워서 제가 한번 여쭤봤었습니다. 성함이 볼프강 포겔쟁어인데, 포겔쟁어가 영어로 하면 포겔이 버드고 쟁어가 싱어라고 합니다. 그래서 노래 부르는 새라는 이름이라고 아까 저한테 설명을 해주셨는데, 볼프강 포겔쟁어 전 교장 선생님 박수로 맞이해주시기 바랍니다.
You are able to listen for another speech, because it was hard to sit so long and to listen so long. So excuse me, because I'm not the representative of the German government, and I'm very jealous about the governments of Finland and Singapore, because I dreamed of those governments. But what to do when there is not such a government? And my answer is the grassroots schools, which are formed in Germany at the year of 1975. And now I think the grassroots schools will be the most powerful motor of innovation. And it will be arriving in the classrooms, and the government is out of order. So it's my subject, and from 22 to 2018 I was headmaster of one of the best schools in Germany, and it exists a book of a Korean colleague shown here. If you want to read more about my school, then you can read this book. So there's nearly no national strategy to improve schools in Germany. That's crazy. And the only ones are waiting for better PISA results. Sometimes they come, sometimes they go. They want a better quality by centralized examinations, and Singapore says this is awful, this is not good, and I am the same opinion. And now they want to spend 5 billion euros for digital learning, but nobody wants to have this money, because in Germany the different countries are ruled by different parties, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, and some countries by the Greens, and every country has its own educational policy, because that's the only thing politicians and governments can decide. So if another party wins the elections after 5 years, then they change the educational policy. And the schools are not able to count on a continuity for their schools. I know I have a good school, then election next year and the new government will change all. And I stay at my school. So, what's the reason for this? The German system is still a system of feudalism. There's a gymnasium for the upper class, the Realschule for the middle class, and the Hauptschule for the working class. And the families of high social status want to stop that other children come up and get good jobs. This is also crazy because Germany has less inhabitants, we need immigrants, and we need also jobs in handicrafts and so on, hand workers and not only medicines and architects. So it's a system very crazy. That changes in 1968, and people of my generation, they didn't knew what their parents did in the time of Hitler. When I asked my parents, what did you do in this time? No answer. So they could be murderer, they could be resistance, I don't know. There was a Vietnam War, the Korean War, and the division of Germany. And all this was a feeling of that society, how it works, is not the right society, and we, as a generation, we wanted to change it. And we asked for the reason for this, and we found the answer. The main reason was the system of producing authoritarian personalities. Therefore, the First World War, the Second World War, Hitler, and so on. And so, my generation tried to change this attitude in German schools, in German justice, in German morals, and in other areas. And we wanted to make a better world, and a world which looks at each child and not puts the children in different cupboards. So, the question is, what kind of school do we want to have? And in what society do we want that our children will live in the future? And do we want to have a school of fear and shame? Or do we want a school of encouragement? And my answer is to the school of encouragement. Oh, I have to make it like this. So, and you see, what was our answer? Our answer, this is the NGO of schools who wanted to do a better school system than the official school system. One answer was that we want to let our students work in teams. You see here one class of my school, my former school. There's groups, 3 boys, 3 girls, 3 girls, 3 boys, and they get tasked together. And they have to discuss the solutions. Not the teacher asks and then the hands go up and the teacher says you. But the hands go up when the team is ready, when they discuss the problem and they think that they have the right solution. And sometimes it is very clear and very simple tasks, but sometimes the tasks are very, very complicated. They last a half a year, and they work half a year on those tasks. So women and men, and also children of different social classes and of different abilities of learning. Good learners, not good learners. And they form this team in all subjects in the school. In the science, in practicing with wood, with cooking, with metal and all the things in the sports, in culture. They have a circus and they build circus productions and so on. So I think that this is the main reason of our success, that we working in teams, and not only the children but also the adults. Because I think that adults must be a model for the children. We cannot want something from the children what we by ourselves not do. So our generation, my generation, built a movement to build better public schools as comprehensive schools. Comprehensive schools where all students are together, students with handicaps and students with a high capability. We were inspired by humanism and the year of 1960. We wanted a grassroots democracy against the governments. And we had the idea of community and teams and multicultural and multisocial children. So you see in the picture the first grassroots team of my school in 1969. They sat in the grass and planned the school. And this school was not much supported by the government, but from the idea of helping each other. This is one of the pictures I like very much, because it shows that this guy had to solve a very complicated task. He has to balance over a row, and alone he would not be able to do this. But his team partners support him, and if a wind comes or if he fails, then they stabilize him. And at the end, he has the impression that he reached this goal, and he knew that this is by the help of the others. And then they turned and they changed, and the others are on the tour. So this is a picture of the typical thinking of philosophy of my school, of our schools. So those schools, those comprehensive schools, exist since 1975, and we were against the classical system in Germany, which exists since 400 years. And we see in Göttingen, in my town, there are both systems. My comprehensive school, now we have 4 comprehensive schools in Göttingen, and 5 gymnasiums with the old system. And it was always a fight between the systems. And you see all the red and all the yellow points are schools which were mostly built by private initiatives, not by the government, but they were public and not private schools, against the selective system, with inclusion and participation, and wanted by many parents. The parents wanted those schools because the stress, Singapore said this, the stress in the classical school system is very high, and to learn and to live in a school, this is very, the parents love it very much. But those schools were mostly in fences. They were in the fight against the other system, and so, so we built a non-governmental organization view over the fence. And all network schools, 134 at the moment, are building schools of 8 schools. Singapore also 8 schools. And those schools are also spread all over Germany. And they have a philosophy, the basic beliefs, that the school must change if the students change, and not the children have to adapt to the school system. If there's some child who is not happy, then the school must be changing and not the child. And these declarations of beliefs are open, and the way they work together is the way of peer review. 7 schools every year go twice to the 8th school, and then changing, and they stay there for 3 days, look in the lessons and speak with teachers and headmaster, parents and students, and then they give a peer review to the whole school. So we thought first that this would be a guarantee of quality. But if the 8 schools are not so good, then the quality isn't the right thing. So that was the idea of 2 foundations in Germany. You know, perhaps the Bosch enterprise with the machines. Yes, you know. Okay. Bosch Enterprise or Bosch Foundation founded a German School Award, a private foundation founded a prize for the best school of Germany. And the best school of Germany every year will get 100,000 euro. That's much money. And it's not the government searching good schools. That's ridiculous. A private foundation searches for good schools. And they want that they are honored, that their achievements and their attitude are highlighted, and that those schools can become a role model for school development in Germany. And the quality must be, I don't know why this is not so. No? Then it goes like this. So, there are 6 criteria for good school, and this is very important. This is first, but one of 6 criteria, the academic achievement. Then, diversity, multicultural. The teaching quality, responsibility and accountability for society environment. The school climate, school culture and external partners, open school, and school as a learning institution. And you can believe me that when I got 2011 the prize for the best school of Germany, it was the best day in my professional life, not in my private life, but in my professional life. And you see, the man who gave me the prize was the Premier Minister of Germany, and it was the man who wanted to destroy my school, because this school, with all the children, it's not his philosophy, and we were a little bit a problem for him. And he said the problem with my school was that the parents are so engaged in my school, and this is a problem for politicians when parents are engaged in the educational system. And because you ask how to engage the parents in school, we have a system of visiting the parents and the students at home, at their homes, at their apartments. So 4 times a year, the 2 teachers are visiting one student, and all the other 5 members of his desk group are coming also in this flat or apartment, and also the parents. So you have in one room or in a big house, you have 2 teachers, 6 students, and 12 or patchwork families, 14 parents. And the way is always that the kids are presenting what they have learned in the last 3 months. And this is a sort of evaluation, because the parents know what was done in the school, and also the teachers can regard, can see what was successful, what was not so successful. Then the teachers report what this group, how it was developing in this time. Then the parents can ask and do critical things and discuss things they don't understand, or they propose something. And after 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, the kids are going playing at the room of the children or outside, and the parents with the teachers are discussing things the students do not have to hear. So then this foundation of the school prize came to the idea that now, after 7 years, there are 73 schools with a school prize. And the idea was that all winners of the school prize will form an academy for teaching schools, for coaching teachers, headmasters, and they do it by dialogue in conferences, networking, by Werkstätten, was heißt Werkstätten? Learning groups, learning circles, and in networks and in platforms. So this is a program of the academy, and all the directors, all the headmasters of the best schools of Germany are now the teachers for other schools, other teachers in other schools and other headmasters. And so I think that our mission is to bring the good school practice of good schools into the system, to coach schools, to educate teachers, to train headmasters, and it is most important, to influence governments and policy. And our legitimation is that our best practice is identified. We know that we are good schools, the television knows it, the newspapers know it, and also not the politicians doesn't know it, they don't want it. We have transparent criteria and the best headmasters and teachers as models. And our hope is to broadly disseminating a reliable idea of practice of school, a bottom-up movement, that this will finally, I think when I will be here in 10 years, I can say that finally we are supported by the governments, and we can set up an international education in each school. Our political claims, and we begin now to bring political claims into the society, the autonomy of schools, no marks in schools, because marks are not good for learning, not learning for the test, but learning for the life, and in the future, the 2 ladies told the same. Responsibility for the future, for environment, for the society, and working in teams means children and adults. My teachers can decide which timetable they have, how many money they need for their level. When the teacher is ill, then they can decide which other teacher goes into the classroom. It's not my task as a headmaster. That the teachers are doing by themselves. I don't want to know it. I want that the lessons are going on and that the students and the parents are and the society is happy with this. But how they do it, that's their problem. And more time for the children. We have classes with 30 children, too much. If you want to have a relation to the children, if you want to understand their problem, and if you want to help individually, then 30 children are too much. We want better trained teachers and headmasters, and we do it in our academy now. And we want the government as a supporter, bottom up, top down supporter, not as a showstopper. And we want that the children's rights of the United Nations must be valid in each school, in each lesson. So our realistic dream, the grassroots movement of good schools, will soon be promoted by official policy. You see that our president, the former president, has his problems with this idea. If he will be able, or not he, but his successors, then my children will give him standing ovations. Thank you for listening.
고맙습니다. 이제 외국에서 오신 세 분의 발표를 들었고요. 마지막으로 이 포럼을 함께 우리 송기서 대표님하고 운영하시고 힘들게 이렇게 잘 구성해 해주셨던 이 안승문 서울시교육청 장관님께서 전체 학교의 변화와 혁신을 위한 8개년 시나리오라는 주제로 미래 학교 만들기 프로젝트에 대한 제안을 발표해 주시겠는데요. 지금 원래 진행 시간보다 약 한 10분 정도 딜레이 되고 있어서 10분 정도 세이브해 주시리라 하는 기대를 가지면서 박수로 맞이하겠습니다. 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
멀리에서 오신 세 분의 발표를 들으셨습니다. 세 나라를 초청한 이유가 있어요. 세 나라를. 우리나라에서 지금 제일 부족한 것 중에 하나가 과연 학교를 어떤 방향으로 변화시켜야 되는가에 대한 공감대가 부족하다고 보거든요. 세계는 지금 어디로 가고 있는데 과연 우리는 학교를 어떻게 변화시켜야 되는가. 그래서 이번에 이제 핀란드는 사실 이제 제가 처음에 소개할 때는 핀란드는 작은 나라니까 여러 가지로 그렇게 생각했는데 지금 전 세계적으로 인정을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이제 세계적인 일종의 트렌드 내지는 세계적인 교육계획의 방향에 대해서 제가 보기에는 자신 있게 국가적인 차원은 물론이고 학교 단위 실천의 차원에서도 잘 준비하고 세계적으로 나가고 있는 나라라고 볼 수 있고요. 그 다음에 싱가포르는 우리 동양적인 전통을 공유하고 있고 또 입시랄지 여러 가지 우리와 비슷한 교육적 전통을 가지고 있는 나라인데 지금은 완전히 새로운 교육 시스템으로 바꾸고 있지 않습니까? 그리고 이제 독일은 우리가 사실 독일에 대해서는 굉장히 많은 독일의 교육학적인 연구나 실천 또는 독일의 진보적이라기보다는 좀 실험적인 학교들 많이 소개됐는데도 불구하고 독일은 국가 수준에서의 교육계획으로 보면은 굉장히 좀 깝깝한 상황이라고 지금 아까 말씀하셨지 않습니까? 그러나 그 독일에서 바로 풀뿌리 교육혁명을 준비하는 운동이 지금 진행되고 있다는 거죠. 그것을 지금 지원하거나 서포트하는 게 로버트 보쉬 재단인데요. 보쉬 아시죠? 하나의 기업이 이 독일의 지금 교육의 변화를 강력히 지원하고 있는 걸 볼 수 있습니다. 그래서 저는 우리나라도 지금 여러 교육적인 모색을 하고 있는데 오늘 조금 전에 어떤 뉴스를 보니까 국가교육회의에서 교장의 연임을 담임으로 만들겠다라는 그런 발표를 했어요. 저는 거기에 공감합니다만은 그런 식으로 국가교육위기가 그렇게 발표해서는 안 될 일이라고 보거든요. 한번 물어봐야죠. 국민들에게 물어보고 학교에 물어봐서 모아지는 만큼의 공감대를 바탕으로 해서 내일 모레 당장이 아니어도 좀 긴 시간을 가지고 공감대를 모아서 실행해야 되는데 우리는 유치원 문제는 비리 때문에 그런다고 할지 모르지만 너무 교육개혁을 완력으로 또는 어떤 이 중앙집권적인 힘으로 밀어붙이려고 하는 그런 이 전통이 있어 왔습니다. 저는 그것을 바꿔야 된다는 생각이 들거든요. 저는 그래서 지금 이 국가 전략이라는 말을 여기서 우리가 쓰고 있지만 국가가 과연 교육을 어떻게 바꿀지에 대한 이 전략이 있어야 되는데 그 전략이 바로 그 뭐랄까요 아주 큰 거창한 무슨 2030 비전도 전략이겠지만 그 디테일하게 어떤 작은 변화를 만들기 위한 과정을 설계하고 생각을 모으고 마음을 모아서 가야 된다는 거죠. 저는 그래서 우리나라 교육을 변화시키기 위한 좀 전략적인 생각을 한번 함께 해보자라는 그런 관점에서 몇 가지 좀 정리를 해봤습니다. 저는 파워포인트를 준비할 시간이 없었습니다. 이 전체를 어레인지 하느라고 양해해 주시고 제 발표가 92페이지인데요. 제가 이제 92페이지인데 그 앞에 84페이지부터 좀 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 네, 교육계획은 국가의 전략 과제가 되어야 합니다. 우리 지금 이 문재인 대통령이 하고 있는 남북 관계를 풀려고 하는 노력은 저는 굉장히 전략적인 노력이라고 봅니다. 네. 경제를 풀려고 하는 노력은 저는 전략적이지 못한 것 같아요. 네. 아주 부분적이고 지역적인 방법으로 경제를 바꾸려고 하고 있는데 교육은 제가 보기에는 아무런 전략이 없지 않나. 그 전략이라는 것을 근데 이제 아까 말씀하셨듯이 이 중앙집권적인 어떤 힘으로 변화를 강제하는 전략이 아니라 아까 싱가포르에서 얘기했습니다. 이니셔티브는 아래로부터 바텀업 이니셔티브, 톱다운 서포트라고 얘기했습니다. 바로 위에서는 아래를 지원해야 된다는 거죠. 그리고 아래로부터는 어떤 이니셔티브라는 게 뭡니까? 운동, 실천을 주도하는 거죠. 바로 그런 모형으로 저는 우리나라 교육이 좀 설계되어야 되지 않나 싶고요. 그런 점에서 지금의 국가교육회의나 아니면 국가교육위원회 앞으로 구성이 되더라도 교육을 그렇게 다루어야 한다. 바로 그런 관점이 전략적인 관점이라는 거죠. 그래서 저는 그런 관점으로 교육을 다루기 위해서 우리가 정말 심각하게 고려해야 될 것이 무엇인가. 저는 교육개혁을 디자인하거나 교육정책을 결정하는 것을 교육 전문가들이나 또는 무슨 사범대 교수들, 출신들 아니면은 교사들, 교육자들 중심으로 결정해왔던 건 이제 끝나야 된다고 봅니다. 그러다 교육자들을 배제하자는 건 아니에요. 이니셔티브는 교육자들로부터 나와야 되죠. 버텀업, 독일처럼 말이죠. 그러나 결정을 하는 과정은 훨씬 더 많은 사람들이 참여해야 되는 거죠. 기업도 참여하고 노동조합 당연히 참여해야 되고요. 학생도 참여할 수 있어야 되고. 아까 핀란드의 국가교육위원회 국가교육청이라고 개명하고 조직을 지금 바꿨습니다만은 그 맨 위에 보드 오브 에듀케이션이 있어요. 거기에 바로 그 많은 이른바 영어로 말하면 스테이크홀더스라고 할 수도 있고 그 다양한 관계자들이 함께 논의에 참여해가지고 국가교육과정을 결정하고 있거든요. 우리도 그렇게 해야 된다는 거죠. 무슨 아무개 대학의 교육과정 전공한 교수가 일정한 팀을 꾸려가지고 교사들과 함께 전문적으로 연구하고 준비해가지고 어느 날 발표해서 실행한다? 그걸 끝내야 된다는 거죠. 그러기 위해서는 바로 내셔널 컨센서스, 공감과 뭔가 이 합의가 필요하다는 거죠. 그런 점에서 저는 우리 교육계획의 전략적 과제의 핵심은 국가적인 공감대를 만들고 국민적 합의를 만들려고 노력해야 합니다. 어려워 보이지만 저는 충분히 할 수 있다고 봅니다. 좀 기다려야 되기도 하고 또 접근하는 방법을 달리 해야 되죠. 그래서 저는 그 첫 번째 교육계획을 위한 새로운 전략적 모색을 위한 이 제안으로 사회 구조적인 문제의 해결과 병행해야 된다. 바로 이 점이 바로 교육자들끼리만 결정할 수 해서는 안 되는 부분이에요. 복지를 정비하고 사회적인 돌봄의 시스템을 만들어내고 함께 하는 많은 이 복합적인, 융합적이고 복합적인 관점에서 교육을 다루어야지 교육 안에서, 학교 안에서 뭔가를 만들어보자. 혁신학교 우리끼리 잘 만들어보자. 그걸 넘어서야 된다는 거죠. 지금 서울에서 어떻습니까? 혁신학교를 반대하려고 지금 들고 나서는 사람들이 있지 않습니까? 근 10년 동안 우리 혁신학교를 이야기해왔는데 학부모들이 반대하고 나서고 있어요. 왜? 합의하지 않았기 때문에. 네? 아무리 좋은 교사들이 교육론도, 아무리 좋은 교사들이 교육 실천도 국민적 공감과 합의 과정을 거치지 않으면 저는 인정받을 수 없다고 봅니다. 인정되어야 하지만 인정받지 못하는 거죠. 송파에서 지금 어떻습니까? 네? 그것도 교육감님이 거기에 맞는다고 툭 던지니까 그런 거죠. 탑다운에 너무 우리는 익숙해 있어요. 그걸 바꿔야 되는데 그 관점에서 사회 구조적인 문제와 함께 해결해야 된다. 복지 시스템, 돌봄 시스템, 이 많은 것들이 함께 고려되어야 된다. 다음으로는 중장기적이고 종합적인 접근과 사회적 합의가 필요하다. 조금 시간이 걸리더라도 한 5년, 10년 걸리더라도 우리는 합의해서 나가야지 지금 단기적으로 4년, 5년 만에 대통령 임기에 뭘 하겠다는 그 접근법 때문에 우리 교육이 얼마나 만신창이가 되고 있습니까? 합의할 수 있도록 해야 된다는 거죠. 네, 그 다음에 학교와 마을과 교육자와 전문가가 함께 해야 된다. 계속 지금 제가 이야기하는 게 바로 뭐냐면은 교육자 중심주의 또는 교수 중심주의 뛰어넘어야 됩니다. 네. 함께 논의해서 합의할 수 있어야 되는데 저는 그것을 지난번에 입시제도를 합의했던 그런 공론화 과정의 합의를 말씀드리는 게 아니에요. 네. 좀 더 큰 규모의 방향과 철학과 원칙에 대한 또는 국가적인 교육의 비전에 대한 합의가 필요하다는 거죠. 네, 그 다음에 승진이 아닌 교육의 본질이 이끄는 교육으로의 대전환이 필요하다는 건데요. 지금 우리 교육은 솔직히 말씀드리면은 참 제가 외국 그 발표자들에게 말씀드리기도 어려워요. 우리나라는 교사들이 승진 점수 때문에 여러 가지를 해야 되고 또 교원 평가 때문에 교사를 평가하겠다고 들이대는 그것 때문에 힘들어한다는 말을 하는 게 참 부끄러워요. 어떻게 그런 교육을 상상할 수 있는지 말이죠. 그런 걸 과감하게 폐기해야 되는 거죠. 교육이 아닌 걸로 교육적이지 않은 잣대로 교사를 재고 해서 그걸 말하자면 이른바 수요자 중심 또는 수익자 학생들에게 뭔가 서비스를 제공하는 존재로서만 교사를 인정하는 그런 관점을 뛰어넘어야 된다는 거죠. 그래서 교육의 본질이 이끌어야 된다는 것은 바로 앞에 세 나라의 우리가 발표를 들을 때마다 어떤 가치랄지 열정이랄지 비전이랄지 이런 이야기 하지 않습니까? 과연 우리나라 교육이 또는 우리나라 학교마다 교사들이 어떤 비전과 어떤 미션을 가지고 지금 달려가고 있는가? 그 다음에 저는 교육에 대한 사회적 합의를 또 이야기하고 있는데 88페이지 보면 바로 교육에 대한 사회적 합의가 왜 중요한지를 말씀드리고 있는데 이 사회적 합의는 과연 교육은 무엇을 위해서 존재해야 되는가? 우리 아이들에게 지금 학교에서 우리 아이들이 배우고 성장해야 되는데 무엇을 위해서? 어떤 지식과 어떤 학습을 통해서 우리 아이들이 앞으로 5년, 10년 뒤에 우리 사회를 이끌어갈 수 있도록 성장해야 되는가에 대한 합의가 필요한 거죠. 바로 그 합의를 위해서 아까 핀란드 같은 경우는 국가교육과정을 개발하는데 한 2년 정도의 과정이 기본적인 과정이 있고요. 그게 또 지역에 내려가서 거기서 또 만드는 과정이 있지 않습니까? 한 4년, 5년 이상 준비해가지고 10년에 한 번씩 교육과정을 전체적으로 개편하면서 거기에 맞게 교육 시스템을 바꿔내는 그 리듬이 바로 핀란드의 리듬인 것 같습니다. 이걸 바탕으로 해서 저는 그 교육개혁을 위한 전략과제로 사회적 합의에 의한 교육개혁의 추진, 그 다음에 개성과 소질, 시민성을 길러주는 교육. 우리는 교육을 경쟁력 있는 인간 또는 어떤 이 노동력, 어떤 미래사회에 필요한 노동력이라고 하는 보는 관점은 익숙합니다. 그러나 아이들 안에 있는, 아이들 속에 있는 어떤 가능성 또는 그 어떤 재능이랄지 그런 것을 끄집어내 줘야 된다는 거죠. 그 다음에 삶의 기술이나 미래 역량을 길러주는 교육을 해야 되는데 그런 관점으로 본다면 우리나라 교육이 지금 너무 그 지식 전달 그리고 그것을 이 선다의 문제로 맞나 틀리나를 선택하게 해가지고 이 역량이 있다 없다를 평가하는 그 참 부끄러운 제도를 가지고 우리는 지금 있지 않습니까? 그래서 그걸 뛰어넘어야 된다는 거죠. 그 다음에 보편적 복지로서의 차별 없는 평등 교육을 실현하는 거. 이건 뭐 우리 지금 교육감님들이 전반적으로 동의를 하고 있긴 합니다만은 누구도 차별받지 않고 좋은 교육을 받을 수 있도록 하는 게 필요한데요. 지금 우리는 전체적으로는 평등 교육의 방향으로 나가고 있지만 세부적으로 보면은 개개인들의 개성과 창의성과 발전 가능성을 키워주는 게 아니라 똑같은 영어, 똑같은 수학, 거기에서 높은 점수를 얻으려고 하는 그런 획일적인 교육이 아이들의 그 꿈과 아이들의 어떤 상상력을 짓밟고 있다고 보거든요. 그걸 뛰어넘어야 된다. 그 다음에 학교와 마을의 상생. 지금까지는 학교가 지역사회에서 섬처럼 존재했습니다. 교사는 그냥 뭐 지역과는 아무 관계없이 그냥 발려놨죠. 다른 나라는 대부분 학교에서 교사를 초빙하거나 모시는 거죠. 그리고 교육청이 지원하면서 우리는 발령을 제도로 있다 보니까 교사가 지역사회와 너무 결합이 떨어져가지고 지역의 문제와 학교의 교육이 거리가 있었지 않습니까? 다행히 혁신교육지구 사업을 통해서 지금 많이 가까워지고 있고 벽을 허물고 있긴 한데 저는 학교와 마을이 함께하는, 함께 상생하고 함께 발전하는 그런 이 전략을 수립해야 된다고 봅니다. 그러기 위한 이제 7가지의 저는 제안을 하고 있는데요. 저는 여기 교육부 개혁, 교육부를 사라져버리라는 게 아니에요. 교육부가 완전히 새로워져야 된다는 거죠. 톱다운 서포터로 말하자면 변모되어야 된다는 거죠. 그 다음에 교육과정 패러다임에 대해 전환이 필요하다. 우리가 저는 핀란드에서도 그렇고 스웨덴 여기 싱가포르도 그렇고 독일은 좀 그렇지 않습니다만 그 변화에 이끌어가는 과정을 보면은 교육과정이 핵심이에요. 교육과정의 구조를 바꿔야 되고 교육과정의 말하자면 행정을 바꿔야 되죠. 지금 저도 놀랐는데 대학에 입학하려고 하는 학생이 자기의 자기소개서를 쓰는데 생활기록부에 적혀있는 것만 쓸 수 있다는 거예요. 아시고 계십니까? 네? 생활기록부에 기록된 것만 자기소개서에 쓸 수 있다는 거예요. 그게 어떻게 가능한 겁니까? 학교 다니면서 생활기록부에 적히려고 학교 다니는 게 아닌데 참 부끄럽습니다 이게. 그래서 교육과정을 개혁하기 위한 아주 근본적인 노력이 필요한데 지금 그거 국가에서 지금 빨리 해야 되거든요. 뭐 몇 차 교육과정 이 문제가 아니라 그 다음에 교장 임용제도의 개혁. 이것은 저는 뭐 교장을 임기를 2번 하느냐 마느냐의 문제가 아니라 교장의 역할과 교장의 임용하는 과정, 이 과정을 좀 변화시키면 충분히 이것도 가능하다고 보거든요. 교육행정의 혁신, 위에서 우리는 솔직히 위를 바라보고 교육을 해야 되지 않습니까? 아이들을 바라보고 해야 됩니다. 교육 관련된 부정과 비리의 척결, 이런 게 무슨 말씀인지 아실지 모르겠어요. 다 미국에서 오신 분들. 사학비리도 마찬가지고요. 그 다음에 평가나 입시 선발 제도의 개선. 저는 이 7가지가 일종의 교육계의 적폐를 청산하는 과정이라고. 적폐 청산이 지금 촛불 시민혁명의 핵심 그거 아닙니까? 이 7가지를 하지 않고 아무리 대통령이 공약한 무슨 뭐 고교 학점제니 무슨 국정과제를 한들 무슨 변화가 오겠냐 이거예요. 네? 제가 전략적인 관점에서 접근하자는 게 바로 그겁니다. 그래서 저는 끝으로 교육개혁 추진단을 구성하자라고 이야기하고 있습니다. 이름은 뭐든지 좋습니다만 왜 교육개혁에 관한 문제를 국가교육회의가 한참 논의해가지고 어느 날 발표해야 되는가? 왜 국가교육위원회가 뭔가 준비해가지고 어느 날 발표해야 되는가? 지금이라도 저는 17명의 교육감과 교육단체들, 교원단체, 정부, 기업 함께 만나가지고 이야기하면 안 되냐 이거예요. 왜 그걸 누가 준비하고 누가 끌고 갔냐 이거죠. 그런 걸 만들어서 함께 한번 크게 논의해보자. 원탁회의를 해보자는 거죠. 문재인 대통령도 좀 그런 관점으로 교육을 바라봐야지 너무 교육에 관심이 없으신 것 같아요. 그런 관점에서 저는 이제 교육개혁을 위한 좀 큰 원탁회의, 라운드 테이블을 만들어서 한번 정말 중요하다고 생각하는 것들을 이야기하고 그 중에 정말 합의가 가능한 게 분명히 있을 겁니다. 그것부터 시작하면 되고 합의되지 않은 것들은 조금 미루면서라도 합의를 만들어내기 위한 테이블을 열어줘야 하고 그 결과를 어떻게 정리해낼 것인가를 저는 국가교육회의든지 국가교육위원회가 해야 된다고 봅니다. 네, 끝으로 저는 이 국가 전략의 하나로 학교를 좀 변화시키자. 우리 지금 혁신학교라고 해서 변화를 위한 모색을 한 10년 가까이 해왔습니다만 물론 지역에 따라 그러지 않은 것도 있지만 학교가 지금 메인스트림은 달라지지 않았어요. 여전히 혁신학교는 지금 송파나 다른 데서 보듯이 마치 안 해야 될 일을 하는 것처럼 인식되고 있지 않습니까? 네. 저는 이걸 바꿔야 된다고 봅니다. 근본을 바꿔야 되는데 메인스트림 전략, 말하자면 자유학기제 같은 경우 있잖아요. 저는 박근혜 정부에서 참 많은 것들을 제대로 못했는데 딱 잘한 걸 하나를 꼽으라면 저는 자유학기제를 꼽을 수 있을 것 같아요. 우리 최상덕 선생님 부원장님하고 같이 우리가 초기에 이야기했던 기억도 있는데 자유학기제는 메인스트림 됐습니다. 그렇지 않습니까? 네. 불과 한 5, 6년 만에 왜 혁신학교를 그렇게 못 만듭니까? 그렇게 만들어야 된다고 해요. 저는 이름도 혁신학교라는 이름보다 더 좋은 이름을 지을 수 있다고 보고 그래서 지금 우선은 장명을 미래학교라고 했습니다. 미래로 가자고 하는데 반대할 사람은 별로 없을 것 같아요. 혁신하자고 그러면 뭐 부담스러울지 모르지만 그래서 미래학교로의 변화를 위한 한 8년쯤의 계획을 세워보자. 앞으로 8년 뒤에는 학교가 완전히 달라져 있을 것을 전제하고 지금부터 그걸 준비해보자는 거죠. 속도는 학교에서 선택하게 하고 이니셔티브는 학교에서 갖도록 하되 교육청과 교육부는 그걸 지원해야 된다는 거죠. 바로 위에서는 헤쳐나가는 데 필요한 이 여러 가지를 지원하고 걸림돌을 제거하는 그런 역할을 해야 되는 거죠. 아까 7가지 제가 이야기한 거 바로 저는 걸림돌이라고 봅니다. 걸림돌을 제거하면서 미래를 향한 걸음을 걸어야 되는데 자세한 내용을 한번 읽어보시기 바라고요. 저는 이것을 일종의 운동으로 아까 독일의 경우도 말씀하셨습니다만은 바텀업 운동으로 말하자면 추진했으면 좋겠고요. 그러기 위해서 지금 혁신학교처럼 몇 명의 교사들이 모여가지고 결의를 모아서 아주 굉장히 수준 높은 어떤 50% 이상의 지지를 바탕으로 우리 혁신학교로 가자. 좋아. 갈 수 있어. 합의가 되면 가고 합의되지 않으면 가지 않는 저는 그걸 뛰어넘어야 된다고 봅니다. 네. 이건 합의하고 말고의 문제가 아니에요. 학교를 변화시키는 거죠. 그렇지 않습니까? 미래를 향해서 가는데 그걸 학부모나 교사가 50% 이상 합의하면 가고 합의하지 않으면 미래를 향해서 가지 않을 겁니까? 오늘 제가 지금 가장 강조해서 말씀드리고 싶은 것은 바로 이것입니다. 우리는 미래를 향해서 학교를 변화시키고 교육을 변화시키기 위한 행보를 하는데 그게 50%의 합의의 문제가 아니라는 거죠. 가야 하지만 우리가 지금 바로 여기 살 수 있는 일부터 시작하면 되는 거죠. 그래서 제가 여기서 제안하고 있는 게 97페이지 97페이지요. 저는 혁신학교를 위해서 50%의 지지를 어느 날 갑자기 물어가지고 결정하는 그것이 아니라 어떤 학교든지 반드시 가야 한다는 걸 전제로 그러나 첫 해, 두 번째 해는 여기 군살 빼기만 하세요. 군살 빼기만 하세요. 학교 구성원 간에 소통이 부족했으면 소통을 하고 쓸데없는 일을 많이 했으면 일을 줄이고 그렇게 해서 학교 구성원들이 우리 학교가 어디로 가야 할지에 대해서 스스로 토론하고 합의해서 자기들의 미션을 설정하고 그걸 어떻게 실행할지에 대한 계획을 세우게 하고 학교가 스스로 기다려주자 이거죠. 한 2년 정도면 된다고 봅니다. 근데 우리나라 사람들이 또 뭔가 꽂히면 바로 잘하기 때문에 1년 만에 되는 학교도 있을 거예요. 그래서 그렇게 해서 학교가 아래로부터 자기를 정말 저는 싱가포르에서 이야기했던 thinking school 좋습니다. 생각하고 기획해야 돼요. 네. 그런 학교를 만들어내기 위한 운동이 제안되어 있는데 저는 이런 운동이 오늘 기점으로 해가지고 좀 거세게 시작되길 바라고 4차산업혁명과 미래교육포럼 우리 함께 하시는 분들이 바로 그런 것을 해보자는 논의를 지금 하고 있습니다. 여기 계신 분들이 함께 힘을 모아가지고 우리의 교육의 변화를 위해서 큰 걸음을 내딜 수 있기를 바라면서 제 발표 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 고맙습니다. 이게 짧지 않은 시간입니다. 5분의 발표를 한 번에 듣는다는 게 거의 뭐 중장거리 달리기를 하는 거나 마찬가지라서 숨이 좀 바쁘실 텐데 바쁜 숨을 달랠 시간이 많지는 않은 것 같아서 지금부터 약 한 7분 정도만 쉬고 6시 5분에